Okay, welcome back to the shop. Welcome back to our shop dog, who greets us just about every video we do. She's a little camera shy, so she's probably going to take off here in a second. Oh no, she wants more loving. That's okay. Okay, you got to see in the eyes of Stella. Now let's take a look at something more pertinent to the channel. Subaru 360s, their two-stroke vans are super cool. Worked on a lot of them. This one has been extremely challenging to get the brakes working right. So what did we do? Customer drove it for a few years. Brakes didn't work so good after a while, which is typical. These things have leading and trailing front wheel cylinders that are not interchangeable side to side, and they're different than the car. So they're very rare. Had to rebuild them, had to re-sleeve them, got those on there. They're working good. But the last test drive I took, the brake pedal wouldn't return like I thought. So I was going to replace it with an aftermarket master cylinder. I ended up not doing that. This is the original master cylinder, and if you're familiar with the Subaru 360, this is where the driver would sit. This is the clutch pedal, and this is the brake pedal. Right now I've got a piece of wood in here jammed on the brake pedal just to make sure that my brakes are all applying themselves as they should. As you can see, or maybe you can't see, this is where the brake pedal would be, and it pops back up just like it should. The brake pedal resides inside, the brake master cylinder resides inside the frame here. So it's very susceptible to salt damage from your boots, salt damage from the roads. It is aluminum cylinder, just like this one here I'm showing you. It is specific to the van, and because it's aluminum and the frame is steel, you've got two dissimilar metals. You add salt to the mix, you just get a mess. So typically Subaru 360s have brakes that just don't last because they're damaged. So we put in this new PTFE line, brake fluid resistant. We have a new brass fitting instead of the plastic fitting. We have our brakes adjusted so that we have just a little bit of play in the pedal there. It needs to have about, you can see the quarter-inch or so on the pedal there, so that hot day fluid expands and we have a little, everything expands. We have to have a little bit of play in the pedal or else the brakes will stick on. So we've got the new master cylinder down into the well where it needs to be, which is difficult to do. It's a one line master cylinder. It's not a dual line or whatever you call it, dual service. You gotta be careful not to strip out the head of the line because it's the only line you got. The reservoir for the master cylinder, if we follow this reservoir line up there, you can see it's right up on a bracket right here. I'm touching with my finger. It's very small. It's very easy when you're bleeding the brakes to empty the reservoir, and then you got to start all over again, and it is just a pain. So when I wedge this dowel on my brake pedal right here between the pedal and the seat frame like this, I can do it with one hand here. Okay, let's try that again. Oh boy, let me try that one more time. See if I can really bust my knuckle. Okay, I got it. So I've wedged a rod there simulating somebody sitting in the seat pushing their foot on the brake, and if I go around all the wheels, nice locked up tight. The rear's not so much because it's proportional to the front, so there's drag on them, but if I really push, I can get them to move. Same on this side. That's how I know my adjustments are correct. What you do is you adjust the shoes until they're tight, and then you back them off a click or two on the adjusters. Again, there's 2 adjusters per wheel, and I've made little arrows there to show and remind myself which way the adjusters go. It's different on each side of the car. The brakes are pretty specific. I have actually gone through another gallon of brake fluid bleeding this thing. Now I'm getting ready to put the pedal pads back on, put the floorboard back in it, and take it for a drive. I think it's going to be good. Finally, it's taken quite a bit. This one was very challenging, as I said. So I'm going to take my rod out. Notice my brake pedal arm snaps back. There is a spring in here. Sometimes it rusts away. That helps pull this lever back. On this particular car, the spring was broken. You've got to figure out how to put that spring back in there. It is just a pain. But it's got to be done. Otherwise, the pedal will not return. It'll set halfway. That's an assist pedal when it gets to the very last part of the throw. You have to have that. Again, this van got new e-brake cables, new wheel cylinders, new master cylinder, basically an entire brake job. And it's not cheap, fellas. Each wheel cylinder is $125 now, not including the master, and there's 6 of them. So do the math. Plus the brake cables, I think the e-brake cables were $200 a piece. So you can seriously wrap up $1,500 into just parts of a Subaru 360 van, car, or truck, just in parts, not actually, hard lines, soft lines. If you get into stainless steel lines like this one has, those are $30 each. So, I mean, you may gulp and say $2,000 for just the parts. That's crazy. That's the way life is. So anyhow, this thing is almost ready to go. I hope we get it down, at least get the brakes going, and then we'll work on some other stuff. But wanted to give you a progress update on this little guy. Of course, once I finish this van, I've got to move on to this one. And this one's even a little rougher. But it makes life worth living, right? Keep your van running and stopping.